Another group of Ukrainians held captive by Russia has been returned to their country as part of a prisoner exchange. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky shared the footage of returned prisoners of war on his Telegram channel. The returning prisoners are fighters of the armed forces, the National Guard and the Border Service. Most of them are said to be wounded and in need of medical assistance. It should be noted that this is the third stage of the prisoner exchange held under the Istanbul Agreement between the sides. Previously, prisoners of war under the age of 25 and wounded soldiers were exchanged. Corpses were also exchanged with the Istanbul deal. The number of prisoners being returned has not been disclosed.
Успокойтесь, все хорошо, живий.
Пашки похоже, он сейчас с тобой разговаривал, короче. Чтобы Украину жопу захищати.
Я в такой жопі був, ти просто не представляєш. Дякую вам велике.
Все, мамулька, я вечером наберусь. Давай, солнышко, все, не плачь.
Я вже вдома, вже в Україні, не хвилюйся, все буде файно. Ой, як назвали? Ой, Артурчик. Ой. Добренько, Соня. Так, я вже в Україні.
Все буде добре. Україна, ми з тобою.
The aggressor country, Russia, is unable to produce new MiG-31K fighters, which are carriers of Kinzhal aero-ballistic missiles, so any losses are acute for it. This is what the military analytical portal Defense Express, analyzing the Russian occupiers' capabilities in this type of aircraft against the background of the AFU General Staff's report on the attack on the Savaslyka airfield. Recall, General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine reported that on the night of June the 9th, 2025, the Special Operations Forces, in cooperation with other components of the Defense Forces of Ukraine, struck the Savaslyka airfield and hit at least one MiG-31 and one Su-30/34. Analysts noted that during the war against Ukraine, the Russian Federation tried to build up the MiG-31K fleet. Thus, if at the beginning of 2022, the aggressor country had 12 airplanes of this type, according to some reports, in 2024, the Russian Federation could have up to 24 MiG-31K. In addition, Defense Express adds, it is also worth bearing in mind the information about the appearance of the Russians of MiG-31I Ishim type aircraft. Basis for building up the fleet of MiG-31K and MiG-31I Ishim could be some number of MiG-31s in storage, which, as of 2018, was estimated at 130 to 150 aircraft. However, the publication emphasizes it could predominantly serve as a spare parts graveyard to maintain a fleet of MiG-31B/BM interceptors. The Defense Express also recalled that serial production of MiG-31s stopped in 1993. A total of 500 such airplanes were produced, of which only 150 remain in service now. This demonstrates rather low endurance of MiG-31 in combination with Russian maintenance culture, analysts noted. A separate problem for the Russians is the D-30F6 engines used on the MiG-31. These engines have a service life of only 300 hours, and if in 2014 representatives of the Russian military-industrial complex announced the accumulated stock of D-30F6 for 20 to 30 years, Then in 2024, they started talking about the need to completely resume production of such power plants. Based on current data from the Ministry of Defense's GUR, the Russian military-industrial complex currently produces about 10 to 15 Kinzhal missiles per month, with an accumulated stock of 100 units. From this military facility in particular, regularly take off MiG-31K fighters, which are carriers of Kinzhal aeroballistic missiles, the General Staff noted. Preliminary data show that 2 units of enemy aircraft were hit at the airfield. They are likely to be MiG-31 and Su-30/34 airplanes. The conflict between the Kremlin and Chechnya, which has existed in a semi-open format for decades, is now resurfacing. The source of tension is Ramzan Kadyrov's desire to groom his son Adam, a teenager who is only 17, for power. Although Kadyrov has older children, Adam has become his chosen successor. According to the Times, Adam Kadyrov has been given several official positions in recent months, including that of Secretary of the Chechen Security Council, a strategic role for governing the republic. In May, Ramzan Kadyrov met with Vladimir Putin. According to Al Jazeera, during a closed conversation, he allegedly directly proposed handing over power to Adam. However, the Kremlin did not approve of this idea. According to Professor Emil Aslan of Charles University in Prague, Moscow may be willing to keep control of Chechnya in the hands of the Kadyrov clan, but it categorically does not support a teenager in the top post. The Kremlin's main priority is stability in the region, and Adam is not yet capable of guaranteeing it, Aslan believes. Amid the rumors, an old interview with Ramzan Kadyrov appeared on an Instagram account linked to Adam Kadyrov. In the video, he speaks of his sons. "I want them to grow up quickly so that I can fully tell them, teach them, and set them on this path." Today, these words sound almost like a political testament. Meanwhile, sources close to the Kremlin report that the very fact of mentioning the succession of power in Chechnya was perceived by Putin as an attack on his authority, and the Kremlin usually does not forgive such steps. Ukraine and the world see instability growing not only at the front, but also inside Russia. A possible transfer of power in Chechnya, especially if it happens contrary to Moscow's position, could trigger a chain reaction of destabilization. Russia, which has survived 2 Chechen wars, cannot afford a new round of tension in the Caucasus, especially against the backdrop of a protracted war against Ukraine. Earlier, media reported that Kadyrov is preparing to resign. He has a major conflict with Putin over his son. Chechnya has long been perceived as a special subject, still part of Russia. Against the backdrop of weakening centralized power and growing contradictions, the situation has begun to resemble preparations for a large-scale political and military conflict. Sources of the investigative project VCHK-OGPU, there are reports of a serious rift between the Kremlin and Kadyrov caused by his intention to transfer power in the republic to his 17-year-old son, Adam. According to sources, during the last informal meeting with Putin, Kadyrov directly stated his desire to see Adam as his successor. However, the Kremlin responded with a categorical refusal.